We're Epstein posting. Wow, from 1992, the last time MSNBC would feel comfortable drawing a link between Trump and Epstein.
Of a Mar-a-Lago party shows Trump giving Epstein his personal attention. The footage, shot in November of 1992, before Trump opened the resort as a club, shows the future president surrounded by cheerleaders for the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins, capturing Trump's fun-loving bachelor lifestyle for an appearance on Faith Daniels' NBC Talk.
See, just look at this. This is why Elon doesn't have Epstein connections, because Elon would be in the corner of this room tapping his fingertips together like this, or trying to impress a 13-year-old girl by balancing a fork on another fork. Like, genuinely, that's the reason why.
Show.
We're going to get great ratings in your show.
Trump is surrounded by women as music blares in the background. After a while, Trump goes to greet 3 new guests. Among them, the financier Jeffrey Epstein.
Come on in. Go inside.
More than a decade before his guilty plea on state prostitution charges. Later in the footage, Trump is seen talking to Epstein and another man as women are dancing in front of them. Trump alternates between dancing and pointing out women to Epstein and the other man and telling Epstein about the cameras.
Okay.
Though exactly what they say is difficult to understand as they discuss the women and their appearances, Trump gestures to one and appears to say to Epstein, "Look at her back there. She's hot." And then Trump says something else into Epstein's ear that makes him double over with laughter. But as the president said,
people can't do coke like that anymore. Nah, everyone's doing ketamine now.
Of a Mar-a-Lago party shows Trump
At this time, was Jeffrey Epstein a known pedophile? Well, this was before any criminal conviction to that sort of like exposed that information. But to the New York elites, he would have been known as one. Yeah, for sure. Like I don't know to what extent that was public knowledge, but certainly by this point, like he was well in the game to the people around him. Yeah, very much an open secret. Reports said he was facing prostitution charges. No, they said this would be more than a decade before he was convicted for that.
Dancing in front of another man and telling Epstein about the camera. They say is difficult to understand. Trump gestures to there. She's hot. More than a decade before his guilty plea on state prostitution charges.
Yeah, so open secret with the kinds of people who attended these parties. 90s really had the best dance music. Well, that's the nice thing. You can actually play music from the 90s at your parties if you want to. Also, nostalgia is a fascist impulse. Cleanse your mind. I hope he keeps this up, man. Musk and Trump both wield their social media platforms as weapons. I remember this. Elon Musk's friends and associates on Thursday are in a state of disbelief. Several say they, like the rest of Washington, are glued to their computers as they watch their friend joust with President Trump, unsure what exactly his plan is. Few of Musk's associates expect this to last forever, but they are sad that it has come to this. Okay. Trump has no energy, hasn't posted in the hour. I think, in my opinion, I think that Trump is being told to lay off it. Senior appointee warns the administration could investigate his companies. Wonder how it's going to make the business class at large feel. That publicly breaking with Trump just leads immediately and openly to them threatening to investigate you, you know? In recent months, some of Trump's most senior officials, Marco Rubio, Sean Duffy, Peter Navarro, you name it, have actively stewed over Musk's intrusions into their work portfolios, finding him to be massively annoying. This week, 2 Trump administration officials tell Rolling Stone the government may not be above revamping investigations into Musk's business empires, probes that carried over from the Biden era, and ones that Musk was extremely adamant he wanted to see a second Trump administration crush if the Tesla billionaire helped elect Trump. This might actually be the best case scenario, a years-long, prolonged legal battle between Elon and the administration, where he despises them the entire time and ends up inciting a huge amount of right-wing voter apathy. It would be like he keeps calling Trump a pedophile, associate of Epstein. He keeps saying, well, Trump's acting like the deep state. What happened to free speech? Blah, blah, blah. And we'll all have to be like, we're in the unfortunate position of needing to agree with him in the context of this, even if he himself is just as bad and would do that or worse if he had the power to. Critical support to Comrade Musk. True.
Economy work, making the border secure, making energy dominance a big thing again, and that's what our bill's going to do, and that's what I'm focused on, and the really important things in life. Okay, this is my chief of staff speaking.
He said that you've changed. He criticized you.
Elon said I've changed?
He said,
No.
yeah, you used to be concerned with the deficit. You no longer.
I responded to that. I'm the same guy that's always been a deficit hawk, and now I'm the Speaker of the House, and I'm working on a multi-step plan to reverse the fiscal insanity that has haunted our country. We're going to get back to fiscal responsibility. And this is the first step of many. It's a multi-step process. We have to get the big, beautiful bill done. It's a historic step forward. And I know, right? I know. And I mean, look.
I'm going to be so mad if we actually need to give Elon accolades for getting this bill shut down. I'm going to be so angry.
Thank you very much, media. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, any response to Elon Musk claims about the Epstein Files?
Thank you very much, media.
Very good.
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein Files. That is the real reason.
Just in Poland this morning and arrived back not even 2 hours ago. And you have the respect of the entire world of law enforcement around this world. They respect all of you so much. Thank you for making all of us so proud on the worldwide stage.
They're all going to try to eat up the accolades and energy that Elon would have otherwise gotten.
The list of the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was...
Isn't it crazy how they kept saying they would release all of these immediately and then they just didn't?
Done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check.
We're never, ever, ever seeing those files. Not yet, really. While reviewing the Epstein Files, which you've had now like 5 months to do, you didn't find anything surprising, really?
When Musk left the government last week, he said it was to focus on his companies, including Tesla. A group of Tesla shareholders even accused him of being absent amid a crisis as the company's showrooms were targeted by vandalism and its stock price slipped. Which, by the way, let's check in on Tesla stock here. The market just closed. Shares of Tesla closed down over 14%. Trump's Oval Office remarks and Elon's tweet spree. Yeah, that started around noon today. That was basically the high point, and billions have been wiped from Tesla's value in the meantime.
Look, Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we will anymore.
They might not even be friends anymore.
Cut.
All right. We literally tried to produce some actual popcorn for the show.
This is like Kendrick v. Drake, but with 2 Drakes.
Because it seems like that kind of a day. But let me tell you, it got much worse than what we just walked through right there. Because the president, presumably after seeing Musk's tweets, responded this. Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months that I was going to do, and he just went crazy. The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it.
We were cycling Hassan's stream jokes, Lamau. We probably both stole the same tweet.
If you think that would have ended there, you would be wrong, and I'm pretty sure none of you thought that it would end there, because here's what Musk said. Go ahead, make my day. And for the record, Musk continued to tweet about Trump after this, is probably still tweeting. Jeffrey Epstein has been mentioned, but we have to cut it off somewhere. We're going to talk to our panel in just a moment, but we're going to start with Kristen.
Speaking of good tweets, Jesus Christ. Trump's new foreign policy by tomorrow morning.
Shoot to kill the mother, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer.
What matters is that they're having fun.
Holmes at the White House. Kristen, I do think certainly when the Musk-Trump bromance began, there was a lot of speculation about the inevitability of a day like this. It actually lasted quite a while. The two seemed to manage to keep their relationship on track through Musk's tenure. I guess at this point, I have to ask you, is the Tesla that Trump bought still on the White House grounds? It sounds like we're set to perhaps hear from the president later on today. What have you seen so far today at the White House, and what are you expecting to come next?
Nobody knows how to handle this story.
Well, I mean, Casey, there's breaking up, and then there is publicly taking a flamethrower to another person to completely try and destroy their reputation and livelihood, which is what we've seen these two men engage in for the last several hours. You have Donald Trump there saying he's going to take away government contract subsidies to the tune of billions of dollars from Elon Musk, which would be his livelihood. And as you mentioned, Elon Musk is making this a nuclear threat by essentially claiming that Donald Trump is in the, quote, Epstein Files. Now, just one thing to make clear here, we don't even believe or we don't even know that any Epstein Files exist.
Dude, the way this shit pisses me off so much. Everyone doesn't want to, no one wants to touch this, okay? They really want you to believe that they raided Little St. James. They got this, like, ultra-wealthy financier with connections to everyone. He had a private like mega jet, okay, and they got all that intel, and there are no files that haven't been released publicly. Come on, how stupid. It's because they're like, well, listen, we're not breaking the story today, there's no need to assassinate me. Jesus Christ.
We have no indication that Musk would have access to that, but of course this is a long-lived.
This is what drives conspiracy theories. It's a correct conspiracy theory. There are files, and they don't go after the people implicated in them because they all have ties to one another, and it would effectively bring down like the... Okay, remember the Panama Papers coming out? Remember when Panama Papers came out and a bunch of wealthy people were implicated in them, that their accountants had illegally stored money overseas, and then for some reason there was never a follow-up on that, even though you'd think all of these Western governments with like basically unlimited like political power, none of them like pursued this or any investigations. Why? Well, because that would upend the whole system. The journalist who leaked that was killed, yes, with a car bomb.
Conspiracy theory that there are some files out there of clients of Jeffrey Epstein's. Now, we reached out to the White House to get a response to this. Donald Trump is going to sit for a roundtable with the Fraternal Order of Police any moment now, and this is not one that his advisors are going to respond for him. They are going to give him the opportunity. The cameras will be there, and we were told Donald Trump wants to talk about this. Just remember, as you said, Donald Trump didn't respond to Elon Musk's lambasting of his legacy bill for 2 days. It wasn't until he was asked about it today that he really laid into it. And even then, just saying that he was disappointed. Now it gets incredibly personal, saying that it's wearing thin. You see Elon Musk saying that's not true, that's a lie. They're going back and forth, back and forth. Yes, there is somewhat of a juvenile angle to this, but these are also two of the most powerful men in the world who are having this public breakup right now, which you said, of course, at some times people speculated this could happen. Two men with huge egos, big personalities, but the White House advisors thought they got off scot-free.
Would you like to say anything? They thought that on Friday he
was gone, they had a pleasant meeting, they praised each other, and he was out the door. And a lot of people were happy to see him go. Donald Trump is right about that. He was wearing thin on some of the advisors who said it was time for him to move on. But right now what you are seeing is a complete escalation in some cases, and also a devolving of this relationship that we watched for the first 4 months. It's really a signature part of the first 4 months or 5 months of Donald Trump's time in office. So right now we are waiting to see how Donald Trump responds to this incredibly personal attack, obviously trying to make it more personal, trying to spark conspiracy theories around the current president. Elon Musk doing so, taking it to a whole new level here.
A whole new level indeed. Kristen Holmes, I know
that was genuinely very impressive. That was an incredibly long nothing. Like that would be a lot for Trump. I feel like Trump would like just sort of glance adjacent to a real point somewhere in there.
You'll be standing by for us throughout the hour as we wait for Donald Trump to weigh in on camera on this. Our panel joins us now. Elliot Williams, CNN legal analyst, former federal prosecutor. Kristen Soltis-Anderson, CNN political commentator, Republican pollster. Adrian Elrod, former senior advisor to the Biden-Harris campaign. Matt Mowers, Republican strategist. And Fayez Siddiqui, technology reporter at the Washington Post. And an Elon Musk biographer is also with us. But before we start our conversation, I do want to just roll some of that tape to remind all of us what this relationship between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, a relationship that, let's be honest, has impacted the lives of certainly thousands, perhaps millions of Americans through these Doge cuts and other measures, what it looked like before they had this. This is beyond a breakup. This feels like a really nasty divorce.
They have nothing to say but like clip shows and guys, this is a big deal. Sorry, just confirming my suspicions, I guess. They're just waffling. I feel like it is destabilizing to America broadly for anyone in media to acknowledge how much our institutions right now are being held captive. Because that's obviously true. It's unmistakably true, right? Like, that's definitely what's going on here. Everything, the 250 years, Democratic Republic, superpower, fought in World War II, all the shit we've done, and all of it right now is hinged on this Drake v. Drake conflict. And I don't think a lot of news agencies want to acknowledge that, I think that acknowledging how inane it is kind of goes against the narrative they try to push, which is to imbue all of this bullshit with like some gravitas, some seriousness. Jesse Waters is coping.
Who are your friends? Yeah. No one slept with my girlfriend, let's put it that way.
Excellent opening to the clip.
These guys are like roommates. They were living in close quarters for like the first 6 months of the year. They're just blowing off steam. Okay. The issue is donor maintenance. This guy's the mega donor. So you don't want him accusing you of being a pedophile, and you don't want him calling for your impeachment. I hope he doesn't mean that, but maybe they can patch things up. I mean, Vance called Trump Hitler, and he's on the ticket. Who are your friends?
That's really funny. I wouldn't expect him to be hedging. Yeah, when things are going well, no kidding. I wonder why Elon hasn't tweeted in 40 minutes. I imagine he got a bunch of texts basically from like everyone in the White House saying something to the effect of, I know hate isn't in your heart. Please put down the phone, please. Ketamine break? Maybe. Ketamine, you come down from a ketamine high pretty quickly, right? What if he walks it all back? How funny would that be? What if he deletes all of his mean tweets and he walks it all back? That'd be disappointing, maybe. A Justice Department spokesperson had no immediate comment on calls to release files in the Jeffrey Epstein case that include references to Trump after Elon Musk suggested the material has been suppressed. Earlier this year, Pam Bondi promised a bombshell disclosure in the case, but ended up handing out a news-free batch of documents angering far-right activists. And a literal rickroll on Twitter. Bannon says he told Trump to investigate Musk. Bannon, one of Musk's most vocal critics, yeah, he wants Musk deported, yes. For months, the Trump administration officials have faced mounting pressure from the far-right and online influencers to release the so-called Epstein Files. It really does piss me off that release the Epstein Files has become a dog whistle for the online right wing, when you'd think, if anything, this should be like a pretty ubiquitous chant, right? Like the far right wants to get at Bill Clinton or whatever. I just don't understand why like liberals and lefties have given this up. Like, nobody likes Jeffrey Epstein, apart from Donald Trump, I guess. I don't understand why this isn't like brought up more often. They've been obsessed with Epstein for years, man. Lefties? Whenever I see Epstein get brought up online, it's by like neo-Nazis who are making it about like Jews or something. That's what I see. I don't see people doing it. Like, it's a broad anti-oligarch position, or anti-elite or whatever. No, the right? Yeah, I mean, time to drop the really big bomb, Mr. Musk wrote on social media. Mr. Trump, he said, quote, is in the Epstein files. That is why they have not been made public. Mr. Musk did not offer any evidence, but soon added the truth will come out. Simply being mentioned in the files does not necessarily mean much. Criminal case files are frequently full of victim identities. They're like implicitly defending Trump here. Like, him being in the files might not mean anything. After all, it's not like there's any other evidence suggesting he was a close correspondent of Epstein's. Thank you for correcting the record, New York Times. It's true. Trump and Epstein had crossed paths over the years, both fixtures of wealthy social circles in New York and Florida. In a 2002 interview with New York Magazine, Mr. Trump said he had known Mr. Epstein for 15 years, calling him a terrific guy who was a lot of fun to be with. Well, at least they're playing the grades here. It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. In 2019, after Epstein had been arrested again, the president distanced himself. I knew he was like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him, he said. I don't think I've spoke with him for 15 years. I was not a fan. Generated intense public interest because the first criminal charges Epstein faced were resolved with an unusual plea agreement which exacted little punishment for what were described as years of sexual abuse of high school girls whom he paid for massages. Was that the, who was the lawyer for that one? What was it? Is it Dershowitz? He's the freak, he's like Israel invited him to defend them against the ICC charges. That's right, Alan Dershowitz? Okay, yeah. That guy. Bondi and Kash Patel have enlisted dozens of agents and prosecutors to scrutinize and prepare other Epstein files for release, according to people familiar with the work who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe internal law enforcement operations. It is still unclear when Phase 2 will be released. I really don't think it takes, like, 5 months to release this. They're never, ever, ever going to release it, man.
He's a know-it-all. He knows some engineering. Don't get me wrong. I give a hat tip for that, but he doesn't know anything about the real world. Doge was, and for any fanboys that still exist, while you're wrapping up in your cape tonight, understand on Doge, he didn't find any fraud. There's plenty of fraud out there. This is President Trump's first complaint. Was this all BS? Right, with the Doge. The act that President Trump should be taking immediately, I think, when he threatens to take one of the big programs out of SpaceX, President Trump tonight should sign an executive order calling for the Defense Production Act to be called in SpaceX and seize SpaceX tonight before midnight.
It's honestly good for us that Stephen Miller is no longer, sorry, not Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon is no longer in like the inner circle of the White House, because he's one of the only strategists on their side who really seems to understand what game they're playing in the long run. I think he got ousted largely because he's odious, disagreeable, just difficult to get along with, basically. There are a bunch of reasons. He styles himself in a way that makes it kind of difficult to keep him around Trump, like, directly. He's greasy. You know, it's literally like shit like that actually does make a big difference. But he's also, like, correct on this from his perspective, from the perspective of the right, in the sense that, like, you're running up against a wall now, and every fascist dictator has this happen eventually, right? Whether you're Hitler or Pinochet or whatever, you get like uppity business moguls who want something different, right? With Germany, there was a bunch of people. There were people from banks and big industry, you know. It can be a general. It can be somebody who was prominent during your rise to power, but now wants something different, and they're speaking out against you. At a certain point, the only thing you can do is you crack the whip and you disappear them, or you utterly crush them. Because if you allow them to continue to speak out against you, you give them the opportunity to unravel the illusion of consensus that you've built. Unfortunately, America is still a pretty big and complicated country. You know, we're not Germany in 1933. So I don't think Trump could get away with it. I don't think Trump could get away with it. You know? Just like a dubiously legal seizure of Elon Musk's assets, deporting him for the student visa thing, investigating, opening up all the investigations. It is the right move. Though maybe Elon's flippant enough that after he comes down the, off the high, he might just delete his tweets and pretend this never happened.
It's a leverage point because President Trump, even though he's going to run in 28, may not be here forever, so we need the debt ceiling. Here's the problem with Elon. It's very simple. He promised $1 trillion in cuts and waste, fraud, and abuse. And listen, for all the fanboys out there, I'm gonna treat you fanboys like little puppies. They're gonna rub your nose in the mess you made. All this thing about the rescissions, we're gonna do the first rescissions package, the $9.4 billion. There's not a line item in there. There's 11 line items, including $1 billion for NPR and $1 billion for. This has been fought. These are programmatic, right? All fanboys, Elon fanboys, take your number 2 pencil out and write this down.
Pencil.
Programmatic means it's a program that's been passed in an appropriations bill that's called a law, okay? People have fought this. The audience has stayed up in the middle of the night in 2023 for the single subject bills, saw Eli Crane and Matt Gaetz and MTG and Lauren Boebert and Andy Biggs
I don't know why
all
his
night
feed is so
long
bad.
at 3
It
o'clock
keeps
in the morning.
freezing.
And what were they arguing about? Everything that's in that first rescissions bill. And who outvoted them? The Republican Party. On the floor of the House, and you know this, they would sit there and make these incredible arguments. You had three podiums. One was the rebels, MTG, Gates, the same people, the same 20 people up there all the time. Then you had one in the middle, it was the Rhino Republicans, and you had the Democrats, and the Democrats just sat there the whole time, and then they said, no, we'll give the time to you. The Democrats gave their time to the Republican establishment, who shot down everything that's on there, everything. You know, Sesame Street in Arabic. All of this has been, that is not what Doge is supposed to do. He told the president of the United States over and over and over again, I got $1 trillion of waste, fraud, and abuse. What do I mean?
I wonder if Steve Bannon actually believes this. Like, does he actually believe there's $1 trillion of waste, fraud, and abuse to cut from the government? Or is he just feigning outrage as a way of directing antagonism against Elon, but he knows the whole point of this was just to, like, undo the government? Nah, he's smarter than that. That's my thinking, too. He's too smart to believe that. No, the waste in his mind is Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, whatever. I think he leans a little bit more red-brown on that. I don't think he actually has an issue with these. Well, he might have an issue with these programs going to black people, right? I'm not entirely sure. Am I wrong, or was Steve Bannon just arguing against Elon cutting the aid to Arabic Sesame Street? No, he was. Which is interesting because you think that would be a good, like, culture war virtue signal to pick up on. Like he would say, oh, I'm glad Elon got that, but it wasn't enough, you know? But he decried that too. I don't know. It's odd. He's an odd guy. Who will be the next shadow president? Miller has been, like, the main culprit for a while. Steve Bannon has real fascist values. He doesn't care about the culture war. Fuck, is he... Okay, is Steve Bannon, like, a pure fascist? In the sense, like, is he ideologically consistent within fascism? Like, is he more... How do I put this? Is he, like, closer to Mussolini than Hitler? Like, he's obviously racist, and he's played on the culture war. It makes me wonder, like... How much does he think of these culture war virtue signals to be distractions from the real aim of ending American democracy? Actual Nazis are anti-capitalist? To an extent, yeah. Or it should be said that Nazis work with the capitalist class and they privatize relentlessly, but there is a core tenet of capitalism that they don't respect, right? Which is, you know, essentially freedom of trade. They don't believe that corporations should get to do whatever they want if it makes them the most money. They think that corporations exist to serve the state. So it's like a subjugation of the capitalist class in support of the state, but not always. Steve Bannon believes in the power of the state, and so he believes in soft power too. Yeah, that's a really good line that kind of like divides real ideological fascists like Bannon from like phony populist opportunists who use fascist rhetoric like Trump, which is that any real fascist would be delighted at U.S. aid because U.S. aid affords us, for very little money, an enormous amount of soft power, you know? Having Sesame Street playing in Arabic means that you're extending like the power of the state, of the cultural mandate, all the way across the world in every language, you know? The fascist loves state power. You'd think if anything, they'd be delighted by that. All these other issues, like say, you know, racism or whatever, those are subordinated issues. They're ultimately they have to be sort of like broken into line in service of the needs of the state. Of course, in practice, usually, and this is the ideological contradiction, right? Even if a quote unquote pure fascist intention wouldn't necessarily lead you down those roads, it's actually, as it turns out, way easier to run a fascist government if you make enemies out of certain types of people, like, say, by their race, right? Like with Mussolini, you know? Mussolini was racist, but it's very obvious that his political project was mostly just like he wanted to be the big guy with the big hat. He wanted to be the big guy with the big hat on the big balcony yelling at people. And the main, you know, sort of like argument by which he became the, Il Duce, is it Duce? It's Duce, right? Yes? Okay. Was for like greater national glory, you know? Appealing to disenfranchised veterans from the First World War, arguing that Italy should share in a greater portion of the you know, the territorial conquest from the First World War, that sort of thing, right? But so, because then people are like, oh, Mussolini, he was like what fascists are supposed to be. Then what happened? Hitler got more powerful than Mussolini, and Hitler was like, hey, you know what you should do? Even though you have like no reason to do so, you should give me your Jewish citizens. You know, loyal supporters, people who have been well integrated into their communities, people you haven't directed antagonism against necessarily, you should give them to me. You should, a person who claims to value above all else the state, the nation, the blood, the people, etc., you should give me your citizens so I can kill them for my political project. And what did Mussolini do? He folded. That's what pure fascism gets you, right? It all eventually collapses into the same pit. And by the end of the, you know, Italy's participation in World War II, in the Axis, I mean, the Italian soldiers were being used as cannon fodder by the Germans, you know? He literally sold his people out, his soldiers, the people he initially won the support of when becoming, El Duce. He sold them out to be cannon fodder. So it's like, you can, I don't mean to be a bother, but if you could read my previous question, I'd greatly appreciate it. You're being an immense bother. Just ask the question again. Are there any examples of fascists that don't focus on race antagonisms? Well, I'm kind of describing how Mussolini didn't bring that to the forefront. I mean, Mussolini was racist because everyone back then was racist, basically. But it definitely wasn't the main drive of his antagonism. I think that it's just as a matter of convenience, almost always these forms of governance will collapse into that because it's the easiest way to get you to just mindlessly hate a group of people. Pol Pot. I don't know if I'd call Pol Pot wasn't really a fascist, man. He was on another level. He was Pol Pot was an anime villain. He was when you are playing one of the Resident Evil games and you barge into the CEO's office and he's talking about how a new life will be reborn, but first we have to extinguish the old one. And then he explains how he plans to kill 8 billion humans. That was Pol Pot. He was insane. Pol Pot does look like Elon. That is true. Yeah.
Are you worried about what Elon Musk is saying here about that this bill could really drive up the national debt?
Well, it's going to drive up the debt. I mean, all you got to do is look at the numbers. It's going to continue to grow. And in 20 years, it's going to go up 20, 30 trillion more dollars. We can't afford that to happen. Okay, the big, beautiful bill is big. Not a lot of it is beautiful. Some of it's beautiful. But again, when you mix it all together, it just makes it that much harder.
The way that the level that Mr. Musk is operating, I can't really respond to that.
If someone who's up, are you concerned about the blowback? He's warning
you guys. Manu, you ought to know I don't worry about blowback. I do policy I believe in, move forward, and expect to get elected.
And that Senator Tom Tillis is up for re-election. Could be a tough race in North Carolina next year. He's going to be one of the votes.
Well, because Elon will primary him?
To watch here, but there's some of those more conservative members who are still opposed to this bill. Senator Ron Johnson just told me moments ago that he is opposed to this bill. Senator Rand Paul also is opposed. There are a handful of some of the other side, the more moderate senators like Lisa Murkowski, who has raised concerns, wants changes to this bill. So a lot of work needs to be done to get this to the president's desk by their goal of July 4th.
And you have to think some Republican lawmakers running.
Genuinely, I do not see how that happens. I do not see how that happens. If the Senate starts making changes to the bill, it's going to take way the fuck longer than July 4th to get through. But I don't see the Senate voting it through in its current form. They can make changes before July 4th. Theoretically, they could. In practice, they won't. There's no way. Which would be ironic since Schumer sold his soul to Republicans for a yes vote and funded the government, only for it to close down now. Yeah, what's the shutdown date is later in July, right? The 4th is when Donald Trump wants the bill out because it's July 4th. But when is the shutdown? Or is it in August, not July? Not a shutdown, it's the default date? Default date. What if the US defaults? That would be wacky. Yeah, here we go. The X date, when the US government could default on its debt obligations, is currently projected to be in August or September 2025. Well, they're not going to have a problem raising the debt limit. I'm talking about the total big beautiful bill. They're definitely not going to get the July 4th threshold in.
White House and congressional officials are working to wrap up and approve the budget package that is central to the president's agenda. They're hoping to do all of that by Independence Day. But how likely is it that Republicans will actually reach that deadline? Well, Republican Oklahoma Senator James Lankford answered that question and many others while speaking to our own Major Garrett in Arizona last week.
On reconciliation. It's still early, but it's also kind of late. Yeah. July 4th is looming.
Either they pass it and raise the limit or we default. Well, if they send it back to the House with edits and it takes too long, they would probably just pass a separate bill raising the debt limit.
I've covered a lot of
which they don't want to do, but they could do it if they needed to, right?
Reconciliations bills, more than you voted on.
Right.
And the first go round, it's imperative. It always passes. We don't know how it passes, but it always passes.
Gets done.
This will get done. Do you have some must-haves that have to be in?
Yeah, I do have multiple must-haves that have to be there. I think we'll get done not by July 4th. I think it's going to be by the end of July. July 4th is a nice optimistic goal on it, very patriotic goal, but I think it's going to be the end of July before we can actually get it finished. There's still a lot of undone. To me, the must-haves, we have to find ways to reduce spending. We have to. We're $2 trillion in overspending. We all kind of nod our head and say, yeah, it's overspending, let's find a way to slow it down. We have to find a way to slow this down. We've had several years in a row where we've had multi-trillion dollars of overspending in a year.
Beyond what Doge has so far.
Correct. I mean, there are aspects
suggested it's accomplished.
There are aspects that Doge can take on, but that will be in the tens to 100 billion range. We've got to be larger than that to be able to slow down our spending.
Looking back on the compromise you forged on immigration.
Unfortunately, this is probably just going to, like, the Democrats aren't going to fix this. There's no way, right? There's no way the Democrats fix this. The Democrats will never muster the political will to tax the way they would need to fix this.
Yeah.
Do you think we'd be better off if that had happened? Or are we better off now that it didn't happen and we just have a different president?
No, we do have a different president that's using the same law that's been there for decades and actually enforcing it, and we're seeing very different outcomes. Thinking about the bill that passed, it should have passed. It would have fixed a lot of the loopholes that are in the law, and it would have been easier to be able to do enforcement now. Because one of the challenges that we have is our asylum laws do include a lot of loopholes in them that cartels have exploited.
Yeah. Hey, Elon's alive. He retweeted something. Elon's stance is principled. Trump's stance is practical. Tech needs Republicans for the present. Republicans need tech for the future. Drop the tax cuts, cut some pork, get the bill through. Uh-oh. Is Elon coming down from the high? Is he backing off? Is he going? He's going from the classic post video of Trump partying with Epstein to claiming that we just need to meet in the middle. We'll see.
Still love Trump, and I really like Elon. This is just a really crappy scenario right now, and I really hope these two can patch these things up, because I think Elon took a low blow by tweeting that, quote, DJT was on the Epstein client list. I mean, something that he knows can't be immediately verified. Also, if Trump was on that island doing something illegal, after all the legal battles that Biden threw at him, if he had done something illegal with Jeffrey Epstein, you would think they would have thrown that at him, no? They pulled out.
This is the reason why the right can never be authentic when they do Epstein conspiracy posting. Even if they're telling the truth from their perspective, they don't understand the nature of the game at all. They have no idea what they're talking about.
Pulled out the stops on everything else. The only thing we can point to that was a known associate.
Pulled out all the stops. Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, man. Merrick Garland? That was about the most punitive behavior I've ever seen from an AG.
With Epstein was that he was at his club once. And by the way, Trump kicked him out of that club because of reported bad behavior. And also, Elon, if you knew he was on the Epstein client list, why did you let him board Marine One with your son? Just asking. But the best thing for Trump to do now is to release the list, something that
That's a good point.
Also our FBI and Pam Bondi have promised us. Still love Trump?
You're never getting that goddamn list, man. It's never happening. Do these people actually believe Trump is innocent in this? I think it depends on how, like, far down the rabbit hole you are. I do think, though, that for a lot of, especially, like, higher up Republicans, they're fully aware of the fact that Trump is a pedophile who partied with Epstein, and they are just fine with that because they know that's, like, the privilege of power. That's half of the reason they fought for it, too. And they only invoke it cynically. I'm sure most Trump supporters, like regular people Trump supporters, think that it's all made up. I mean, the information environment is now, right? Like, it's really, really, really bad. Who knows what information they're getting or, you know, how much they even know. Many of these deep rural voters do effectively see Trump as a messianic figure. Yeah, I would say so. I am seeing a lot of posting like this from the right, where people are like, come on, guys. Come on, man. That sort of thing. I saw he retweeted a video, this one, which I think is kind of the same.
A beef is
So he did retweeted by Elon. It's not a random video.
developing between Trump and Elon. And man, am I disappointed. But first, here's what's going on. Last week, the House passed what Trump is calling his big, beautiful bill. Elon called the bill a massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill and a disgusting abomination. The bill is huge, over 1,100 pages. There are completely different interpretations of how the bill impacts our $2 trillion deficit and nearly $37 trillion debt.
Wait, no, there aren't. Wait, no, they're not. Wait, that's just arithmetic. There are not two different. What do you mean two different interpretations? Like in a PEMDAS kind of way? Like depending on whether you divide or subtract first, you get the number different?
The Congressional Budget Office, or CBO, says it increases them. Trump's team says it decreases them. So what's the truth?
This is the kind of shit Elon's retweeting. If you ever wonder why America is the way it is, it's because people are consuming media like this.
The answer is, it depends. Trump's team is correct that they and the CBO are using different assumptions. But even if they use the same assumptions, the fact is that whether the deficit shrinks depends on how much the economy grows. If GDP growth is modest, around 2 to 2.5%.
What? There is no amount of economic growth that would compensate for the increase in the deficit. Absolutely not. What, like a GDP increase of like 90%? The deficit is enormous relative to the total amount we raise via taxes. You would need an enormous increase in the GDP, like an impossible increase to make up for that.
Tax revenue growth won't be enough and the deficit will grow. On the other hand, if GDP growth is exceptional, like 3.5%, then Trump's team may be right.
No, 3.5% wouldn't even be close, not even remotely close. A 3.5% GDP increase being enough to close the gap of the deficit imposed by the One Big Beautiful Bill? Absolutely not.
The CBO is not projecting that the bill will create exceptional growth. Trump's team probably is. Part of the problem here is that this is just not being messaged well.
I watched this guy debate Destiny. He said he doesn't know what GDP is, so that makes sense. Jesus. You'd think Destiny would have learned that with all the time he spent debating stuff like that.
And in one place. We're getting a bunch of tweets and fragmented statements that we, the people, need to cobble together to understand what's going on. But personally, that's not my biggest issue with what's going on. This is how Trump responded to Elon.
So we've done a great job. Elon knew that. Elon endorsed me very strongly. He actually went up and campaigned for me. I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway. And I'll be honest, I think he misses the place. I think he got out there and all of a sudden he wasn't in this beautiful Oval Office. He's not the first. People leave my administration.
Do we think this will get Rogan to turn on Trump? The only people that I respect less than the conservatives who are using this as an opportunity to disingenuously pivot towards who they think the more profitable demographic will be are the people who are disingenuously doing this like, come on, mom, dad, stop fighting bullshit. It's so pathetic, dude.
They love us. And then at some point they miss it so badly. And some of them embrace it and some of them actually become hostile. I don't know what it is. It's sort of Trump derangement syndrome, I guess they call it.
What a disappointing response from our president. Look, there's a reasonable disagreement to be had about whether this is the right bill. I can understand why, on a human level, Trump would be disappointed that his friend challenged it.
Jesus. Yeah, like they would never use measured language like this when discussing any kind of disagreement between Republicans and Democrats. They're only extending it here because this guy doesn't want to lose either side of his audience, right? I don't know. I find that shit like this, like, especially pisses me off because to see, like, people who are championing, literally, like, oorah chanting as our democracy is torn apart, as our country is raped to death, like, suddenly default to this, like, ooh, woo, why can't we get along behavior? At least, and you have to give them credit for this, at least leftists online are generally antisocial. Like, they're pretty cutthroat across the board. But you don't get this kind of like, ooh, woo, baby talk bullshit when like Democrats disagree with each other, whatever. For the most part, like I think it's a symptom of the fact that Elon and Trump both fill like the daddy role to different people, right? Their mindset, their ideology, their politics, fundamentally submissive, right? It's all about finding a dear leader, trusting dear leader, and deferring to dear leader, right? It's naturally cowardly. So this is really not a crisis of policy. None of these people give a about policy, right? It's a crisis of faith and who you trust more. And because it's like genuinely difficult to hedge your bets properly when you've got these two sides, you know, who do you want to side with, right? The easiest choice is just say, well, I'm just disappointed that they're fighting at all.
his bill. But Elon critiqued the bill. Trump critiqued Elon. Elon is a citizen. Trump is our president. We elected him to lead. He should be leading.
Dude, there's this fake indignity at the idea of Trump belittling a citizen. It's only like the 50 billionth time he's done that. What do you? It's this principled opposition to Trump shit-talking people who are U.S. citizens. Jesus Christ.
Not fighting with citizens. Now Elon is firing back by accusing Trump of being in the Epstein Files, which I find unnecessary and disappointing by Elon, especially since
this guy finds a lot of things disappointing.
Since he was originally taking a more principled position. But here's what's most important. Mr. President, this is a 1,116-page bill that passed 2 days after being introduced. Politicians made a bill so long that no one could read it. And then they voted on it without reading it. It extends tax cuts that you made in 2017 but did not reduce the deficit. So hopefully you can...
If you read into the Kims in North Korea, you'll learn a lot about how fascism is linked with the idea of mothers and fathers. It's really interesting. Yeah, it is kind of crazy how, like, psychological it is, you know? Maybe, I think it's one of the big reasons why liberals have difficulty dealing with it, because liberals operate in the realm of policy, right? Like, you've got the policy wonk liberal thing. That's kind of what they're known for. And they're just dumbfounded at the idea that you can have extremely powerful popular political movements that are born out of like something as root and banal and like animalistic as like sexual insecurity or like not having a father figure or whatever. You know what I mean?
Understand our concern. We want an explanation, not retaliation and escalation. Please make it clear the conditions under which this bill reduced the deficit and tell us in one video or essay or speech how you plan to create those conditions.
What the who did you vote for, dog? What the fuck are you talking about? Trump, can you explicitly explain the details of the policy that you're proposing? What guy are you talking about? He doesn't know anything about anything. He's never done that in any case with any bill. He's never ever acted the way you think or you want him to act here, you know? All right, well, I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of this. The oh no, please, woo, don't fight bullshit. I saw what's his face? Cat Turd did this. I think a lot of people are going to be running with this. Give me more bet hedging. I want to see it.
President Trump saying he is disappointed Musk has criticized the big, beautiful bill as Musk takes the fight to X.
And now it's getting personal. Fox News team coverage. Kim Strassel joins us in just moments.
But we begin with senior national correspondent Rich Edson. He's live from the White House for us. So, Rich, what an exciting day there. It looks like Musk has taken this fight to a whole new level.
Yeah, it's still ongoing thanks to the social media platform he's owned. Musk has been responding to the comments that President Trump just made a short while ago in there, at least for the visitor in person, the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz. He seems to so far have had a good visit. Trump even praised his communication skills, asking if his German was as good as his English. So they had the Oval Office session lasted about 45 minutes. Big, beautiful bill. Trump says Musk only opposes it because Congress is cutting electric vehicle subsidies.
He never had a problem until right after he left. And if you saw the statements he made, it was beautiful.
Well, Musk was watching and responded, whatever. Keep the EV solar incentive cuts in the bill, even though no oil and gas subsidies are touched. Very unfair. But ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in the bill. In the entire history of civilization, there has never been legislation that both big and beautiful. Everyone knows this. Either you get a big and ugly bill or a slim and beautiful bill. Slim and beautiful is the way. He's still going on X. He says, without me, Elon says, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. I can't imagine that doesn't go replied to at some point now after the president meets with the chancellor. Now, on to Ukraine in this meeting. On Ukraine, the president likened the war there as
no commentary.
John and Sandra, back to you.
As always, Rich Edson, thank you. John?
All right, let's dig a little deeper on all of this. Kim Strassel is a Wall Street Journal opinion columnist and a Fox News contributor.
Please. Also,
I was going to start
what are you doing with your face?
Foreign policy, but I think we have to start with personal relationships here.
It's the please don't make me talk about this face.
This is what set it all off, this back and forth now between Trump and Musk in the Oval Office. Listen here.
Elon and I had a great relationship.
Yeah, you want to give any opinions?
Pointed in Elon.
The president said that Musk shot back. What are you talking about? Nobody ever told me about the bill. I had no idea what was in it. It was passed in the middle of the night. Nobody got a chance to look at it before it went through the voting procedure in the House. But I mean, I was joking with Sandra. Whoever had on their bingo card that these two would split up? I think just about everybody.
You know what? I actually did have it on my bingo card, John, or at least an upset like this, because the thing you got to know about Elon Musk is he is famous for speaking his mind. And look, that's why I think Trump is maybe incorrect about what has inspired him to do this. I would argue that he kept his peace while he was officially working still on Doge. And then when he was released from that, he felt more capable of being honest. But I get his frustration, too, by the way. I mean, he supported these Republicans in part because of their willingness on the campaign trail to say that they were going to roll back Joe Biden's spending blowout. He then devotes 5-6 months of his life to Doge and trying to cut waste and spending. And he was very clear that that's why he did it. He was very worried about America's financial picture. And then we have this Republican bill. And by the way, I am as happy as anyone that the tax provisions will stop a tax hike. But the spending cut provisions in it are really pathetic. He's saying something that's pretty obvious. Republicans have not really backed up their rhetoric. They're not doing much on the spending side, and that's what provoked him to come out and say this.
You know, I should point out, when after Trump said, I'm very disappointed in Elon, I've helped Elon a lot, Elon fired back in a reply to somebody else to say, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House, and Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate.
Yeah, you said that.
And then he tagged that by saying, such ingratitude. As Rich Edson was saying, I mean, you can count down from 10 for the Trump response to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's very accurate either, what Elon just put out. I think that Donald Trump, I mean, he certainly enjoyed the money, and I think that there was definitely a benefit to having that kind of a benefactor behind them as a money machine. But the fundamentals of this election went a lot deeper than just the cash flow. And if you want proof of that, look for the fact that Democrats still outspent Republicans by and large, and they still lost the election.
That's true. That does make me really sad to think about. That is true. All right. Nobody here is offering any firebrand opinions. What about the 5? If there's any program that would,
it is the
on
Trump
Fox.
travel ban 2.0 in the wake of the horrific firebomb terror attack against a Jewish gathering in Boulder, Colorado, done at the hands of an illegal immigrant responding to Musk. Said, quote, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Greg?
Yes.
Where are you going with this?
Well, I think what you're seeing is a battle between the purist and the pragmatist.
Here we go. Now we get the cope. Okay, now here we go.
I want it to stop. I want to tell them, if they're both watching, knock it off. We're done with this. This is an incredible moment for our country. It's awake. It's optimistic. It's on board with the golden age. Don't sabotage it with a self-inflicted feud. You know, don't let the Dems get back up from the floor where they belong. You know, you got two really successful people, billionaires, and they both, I guess, have egos, but they also have different ways of seeing things. The great thing about this is we all see it. This is an incredibly transparent administration. This isn't a bug in the system. This is the system. So I want you to compare this system to the one, you know, that ended in 2020. Would you take a forceful president and a billionaire publicly feuding in public, you know, over an invalid president, you know, who was kept hidden from the public?
Okay, we're putting Gutfeld firmly in the hedging bets, not taking either side category. Gotcha. Okay, so no opinions other than that.
Leaving the country without a leader. So I'll take this any day. At least I know what's going on, and I can somewhat enjoy it. But I want him to stop. I've had it. This is like, it's like, I don't want to see my parents fighting. I just want them to get back to, I like Batman and Robin. I don't like spy versus spy. Can I talk, just finish up on all the outrage over the travel ban and stuff? This is a collision between adult actions and childish ideals. You know, the hysterics have gone without adult supervision for so long.
Adult actions versus childish ideals. So Elon is the childish ideals here?
and the muscle of deterrence have atrophied. They don't know what it's like. That's why every time Trump takes an adult action, it's like a big bucket of ice water on their head. But the travel bans, the deportations, the criminal roundups, these are a course correction necessary after 4 years of children running the candy store, doling out.
What the f are we talking about? No, actually, what the f are we talking about? Genuinely.
Benefits and cash to everybody. They happily forfeited the adult role to be basically a global Santa Claus. I mean, you could have protected the country. This wouldn't have happened, but now the adults are in charge.
You know, Kayleigh, do you see this as a big distraction from all the good work that this administration has been able to do up to date? Will this only...
All right, we have another firm coat poster.
Distract from any of those moments?
I don't see it as a distraction. Yes, the liberal media will go nuts over this. They have been all week.
Okay.
But this was predictable. You have the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, and the most powerful man in the world, President Donald Trump. For this to work,
holy shit, she has like scene girls in high school eye makeup. Like when I was in high school, she has a solid black line drawn around the entire eye. That's crazy.
The richest man in the world would have had to subjugate his ego to the most powerful man, because guess who the American people elected? The man sitting behind the resolute desk you are looking at. And Elon Musk, he did a lot of good. He brought attention to spending, to cutting spending. No one wants to touch that issue. He touched it.
So no one had talked about cutting spending in the government before Elon brought it up. It was a taboo subject. No one was willing to go there until him.
And there was a lot of personal backlash. He lost value in his companies. He got death threats. But ultimately, President Trump is the one who won the election. For Elon Musk to say, I won Trump this election, President Trump won all of the swing states. He is the first person in the Republican Party to win the popular vote in 20 years. He had the highest raw vote total of any Republican nominee ever in the history of the party, increased double digits over the last 4 years among Latinos, Black, and young people.
Hey, at least she has like an actual position. Okay, we have a not hedging our bets poster. We have an actual like, okay, Trump is the better of the two poster.
No amount of money bought that. What bought that was a movement. And Elon Musk had to decide, I'm either going to fold into this or go away from this. And he chose to go away from this. I think it's a sad thing to see. I agree with you, Greg. I don't want to see the adults fighting, but I do think this was predictable.
Well, Harold, what are your Democrat friends saying about what looks like a breakup at the moment?
So, Sandra, I'm glad you're here and glad Kayleigh's here. My Democrat friends are disappointed, too. No one wants to see this. I don't think this is a Democrat or Republican thing. We should just call it for what it is. The adults.
Yeah, we're all real somber over this one. What the f are you talking about, man?
Are not in charge. The president did benefit from Mr. Musk. If you go back and replay and we talk about the things that we say on this show, we were right on border security. We were right on the cognitive decline of the president. And we thought we were right about this relationship with the two of them. I'm hoping, I agree with you, this is not a partisan thing, but I hope they're able to repair this. For the richest person in the world who happens to live...
Fuck. This guy has a nice shirt. That's a really nice, elegant, button-down collar roll right there. Look at that.
Person in the world who happens to live in America and has dual citizenship, I think, but here in South Africa. And for the president of the United States who had a relationship a year ago, they were the greatest of pals. And for the world to see this is just simply not a good thing. Two,
the world to see this. Humanity weeps at what could have been. Everything we've lost. Can we pretend the planes in the night sky are like shooting stars?
He said something. He said two things, Mr. Musk did, and the president said another thing. But Mr. Musk said that he was responsible for this win and responsible for the Senate and the House. It was interesting the way he said that. I don't know if I agree with him on that. I think you make a good point, Kayleigh, but we're going to see what he means by that. Then he said something else. He said, the president's only around for 3.5 years. I'm around for 40 years. Now, I take that to mean to those in politics, Democrat and Republican, that I'm going to be a kingmaker, continue to be a kingmaker in politics. And then the president said that he would cancel some of the contracts, that the way to save money would be to cancel contracts. I've never been one to think that the president was totally consumed by revenge and retribution. Not in my party, and others have said it. I think at times he's human. He's got flesh, so he wants to punch back at people who punch him. But why, if you really believe, we said 8 weeks ago, 12 weeks ago on this show that but for Elon, we wouldn't have a space program. But for Elon Musk, we might not have the ability to communicate around the globe like we do, and certainly Ukrainians wouldn't have been able to do what they did against Russia, but for Starlink.
It feels like he's leaning
I've
more
sat on his
towards
show,
Elon.
We bragged about his prowess as a technologist. So I just hope to Greg's points, I agree with you. I hope they're able to dial this back and de-escalate, because we may be motivated by different reasons, but I don't like it because it's not good for the country. It's not good for how we look around the globe. But I got to tell you, there are some of my Democratic friends, Sandra, who are saying, let them fight, just like they're just going with the old political kind of thing. If my enemy is fighting with the enemy, then it's okay. And then remember, Elon was a Democrat for a long time. So, and last, I don't mind the travel ban, but I do. It's interesting that Egypt is not a part of it, and the guy was from Egypt in Colorado. And
I think they're hedging on Elon being a dumbass and making up. There's still a very real possibility of that happening.
Talked about before, I wish they'd start tracking people who want to learn how to build Molotov cocktails online. If you go and try to build a bomb, we should know who you are. I can't buy Robitussin at a drugstore without presenting ID and being on camera. How can you go online to learn how to build a Molotov cocktail and we don't track you?
Jesse, I wonder if this means Harold's friends will start buying
It's like gasoline in a bottle with a rag in it. What are you talking about?
Teslas again.
Good question.
They never stopped.
And maybe Trump will torch the one that Musk gave him. Sometimes when you're angry, you say things you don't mean. Greg knocked my hair last week, and I said he's on the Epstein list.
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't mean that. I made it up.
How did you know, though?
How did Musk know? No one knows what the list is. He didn't know. But sometimes guys fight. Guys sometimes will punch you in the face, and the next night you're having a beer. Sleep with your girlfriend, and you patch things up.
Maybe if you're Jesse Waters. Has anyone ever told him that nobody buys the alpha male shtick? Like every show he does, he's like, well, real men don't cross their legs, you know? Real men never like make this facial expression. And he looks like a doughy trust fund kid. Like no one buys this.
Really? Not your wife, your girlfriend.
Who are your friends?
No one slept with my girlfriend, let's put it that way.
Oh, my word.
These guys are like
every
roommates.
time.
They were living in close quarters for like the first 6 months of the year. They're just blowing off steam. The issue is donor maintenance. This guy's the mega donor. So you don't want him accusing you of being a pedophile, and you don't want him calling for your impeachment.
Okay, I will say, though, it is a little funny how Jesse Waters has enough contempt for his job that he's like laughing through this. Like he's obviously paid to lie, and he obviously does so with like a lot of joy because he hates you and life and so on. But it is funny, like he's laughing about this, like he's parrying it, you know? And he's doing it on the same panel of 5 where 2 people have given these somber speeches about how humanity mourns the loss of this great power team that we had. It's so weird how they have to analyze this through a personal lens instead of policy. Dems never did this, like with the Chuck Schumer thing. Well, the problem with Dems is that Dems have no thoughts or feelings. They're like soulless and spineless, whereas Republicans are consumed by evil. So there's like an analysis breakdown there.
I hope he doesn't mean that, but maybe they can patch things up. I mean, Vance called Trump Hitler, and he's on the ticket. My issue is that the media said that Musk was the co-president. He doesn't look like the co-president anymore. The media said...
Where the f*** is Vance?
Trump was doing favors for Elon Musk. Well, if you look at this big, beautiful bill, there's no favors for Elon Musk in it at all. Now, the big, beautiful bill, now he's got a beef with it. These are the things that Trump ran on and won on. Wall, ice skies so you could do mass deportations, military, F-35 ships, pay raises for the troops, and tax relief for everybody, no tax on tips. These are the things that won him the election. He didn't run on balancing the budget. So this is the priority right now. You have 4 years to balance the budget.
He didn't run on balancing the budget.
Yeah, there's a lot of pork in this thing. There's always a little pork. All right. But this is not a spending bill. This is the signature piece of Donald Trump's second term. This may be the last major piece of legislation Trump ever passes. Well, he might have 3 terms, but for now, we're saying this is it. Now, I don't like the fact that he said that he won the election. This guy got shot, popped back right up. He won all the swing states. He was always ahead in the polls. The money was great. Trust me, the money helped. Thank you, Elon Musk. But if money wins elections, Kamala should...
This guy sucks at appealing to the hogs. Dude, they love him. Jesse was comically evil. He's comically evil compared... There are a lot of people associated with Fox and with the Republicans who still feel the need to justify it. He just says whatever. He's genuine. He's like halfway to Alex Jones. He revels in it. He's a total moron. Nah, he knows he's lying. I mean, it's not like he believes any of this crap. He's just very contemptuous, you know? A lot of Republicans like him because Republicans are bad people. They see him and they see him having like delight, deriving joy from being a bad person. They're like, hell yeah, man. Anyway, we're almost done with the clip.
Should have coasted. She had twice the cash. And if money wins elections, then Elon should have been able to win those seats in Wisconsin. So Trump so far has taken the high road. I think Elon right now, I mean, think about it.
Yes.
I thought he was going to call him a drug addict about an hour ago. He hasn't called him that yet.
Let's see.
I
The night
think
is young.
Trump should just take the high road, let Elon blow off some steam. They're both powerful men, great men, and they'll patch it up.
Patch it up.
The night is young, that is for sure.
He's not dumb, though. He's probably right on that being the strategy. You know, that's definitely the direction they're going to take things, right? Like, think of how destructive it would be to the Republicans to have Elon Musk be a permanent enemy, right? Owning Twitter the whole time, that would be rough for them. They're probably restraining Trump and keeping him from going off on Elon so that Elon can be reached out to later. Still, coming back from the Epstein shit, saying third party Epstein, he should be impeached, like that's a pretty big hill to overcome. But Trump just isn't that involved anymore. So I want Miller to get tossed into this. No way. Miller would not be able to hide his contempt for Elon enough. No way. Not a shot in the world. Miller would crash out on air. He's very easy to upset. Wonder what Tucker Carlson thinks, not gonna lie. Is Tucker Carlson's income still tied to his show on Twitter? Or does he have like a Rumble now or whatever? OnlyFans? Gotcha. We're Rand Paul posting.
Senator Rand Paul joins us, Republican of Kentucky. He's been all over the place right now. He's a man of the hour in many ways. Pressure is being applied, but Senator Paul, you've been through this before. What do we not know about this big, beautiful bill that you do?
Well, I would call it the big, not yet beautiful. You know, could be made prettier. Could do a little touch up to make it more acceptable? There's much about it I like. I mean, I like the tax cuts. I voted for the tax cuts in 2017. I'd like to make them permanent. I agree with Art Laffer that you can reduce tax rates and actually have more revenue. So I don't accept the CBO argument that the tax cuts will add to the debt. I am for spending cuts. I don't think there's sufficient spending cuts in there, but I will work to try to put more.
There's a 0% chance this is real. This is fake. I'm putting it on screen because it's funny anyway, but that can't be real. Truth Social Trump. I'm gonna check. No, it's not real. Sorry guys, not real. A lot of misinfo out there. That's why you got to get your information from the Vosh stream. That's youtube.com/c/vosh.org.net.gov. Okay? Only reliable source of information. Never wrong. You see Biden's press secretary is changed to be an independent. Yeah, I covered it earlier today.
More spending cuts in there, and I could vote for it if we get more spending cuts in there. But the one thing I can't support is the third.
Why wouldn't you plug your own website? Because the website hosts the chat. The stream is hosted on YouTube.
Part of the bill, that's increasing the debt ceiling $5 trillion. Because I think that is like drunken teenagers that run up, you give your 16-year-old a credit card, a month later they've got $2,000 worth of debt, they've been buying booze and gambling and acting irresponsibly. Do you give them now a credit card that has a $10,000 debt limit, or do you restrict their debt limit? So I think we should put rules and strictures, try to control the spending of Congress by maybe increasing the debt ceiling for a few months, and then see if they can act in appropriate adult fashion to control spending, and then we have the discussion again every 3 months. But what they're
You want to raise the debt ceiling every 3 months? You want to have a fight over this every 3 months? You want to amend the budget bill every 3 months?
wanting to do is raise it $5 trillion. And one thing we know from past history, if you raise it $5 trillion, they will borrow $5 trillion. So it really doesn't become any kind of leash if that's what we.
It's so cool how in America, the people who are most concerned about our deficit spending are the ones who want the biggest tax cuts. And the people who want to raise taxes aren't concerned about the deficit spending. That's so cool. I love that for us.
Give them.
Is this applicable? Liz Warren came out, Elizabeth Warren, she wants to get rid of the debt ceiling. President Trump agrees with her. Is this applicable, and would it appease you, or am I misinterpreting the fundamentals of the debt?
Why would he wait? Were you listening? Why would he be happy with that? Why would he be happy with that? Why would he just said he wants to argue about the debt ceiling every 3 months? This is the opposite. This gets rid of it entirely.
Ceiling, what it is.
Well, it's sort of the opposite of what I want. They don't ever want to vote on the debt ceiling, and I want to vote on it every 3 months. So
fuck it. Why not 1 month? Why not just raise the debt limit by, you can never raise it by more than 100 billion. Just guarantee that we have to relitigate the argument like every weekend, basically. Why not?
It's two polar opposites. If you never voted on it, there would be no.
The debt limit is so stupid. It's like meaningless. You have to raise the debt limit if the budget that is approved by Congress requires the borrowing of that money. Like, it's a totally redundant process. You sign the budget or you don't. Whether or not you hit the debt limit is determined by the budget that you already signed into law. Like, there's no reason to do both. You implicitly raise the debt limit when you sign into law the budget bill that requires you to later raise the debt limit. There's no reason to do it twice.
No leverage to tell the people borrowing and spending the money they're doing a bad job. It's an inflection point. It's a point of leverage. It's a point of time for debate.
They go together, don't they? No, they often don't. Often, the Congress will write and pass a bill, and it'll be signed into law, and it's a budget bill saying you can spend this much, and by spending this much, you are guaranteed to incur this much debt. But the debt limit is below the amount that you need to borrow in order to fulfill the budget, which you legally have to do. So you're just kicking the debt limit increase like down the road. You're kicking the can down the road. Sometimes they get packaged together, but often people will have these arguments over the debt ceiling in the middle of like no time at all. We just randomly comes up because they didn't settle it earlier. Why not just pass the infinite debt limit bill? Well, they should. There's no reason to have a debt limit. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fix anything. Like, if you want to lower the amount that we borrow, make better budget bills.
So in the past, under Biden, he would ask that we extend the debt ceiling for 2 years with no dollar amount, and we could spend and borrow as much as they felt like they wanted to spend and borrow.
Not as much as you can spend and borrow, as much as is allowed by the budget that you write and sign and pass into law. Increasing the debt limit does not allow the government to borrow more money than is permitted by the budget. The budget is the budget. That's the budget.
With no limit for 2 years. $5 trillion is essentially limitless, because I'm not sure they can borrow more than $5 trillion. They might be able to, but it is the same thing. No restrictions on your spending. So it's the opposite thing to do. And in the past, no conservative Republican has ever voted to raise the debt ceiling. In fact, this debt ceiling is such immense proportion that it will be the largest increase in debt ceiling in our history. And it's frankly just not conservative.
Are you close to getting what you want? I mean, is there, are you guys negotiating? Are you getting a little bit like, is this going to happen, or are you a hard no matter what?
It takes 4 of us. If 4 of us could say we're not going to vote to have the debt ceiling on this bill and we want a separate vote, they will separate it. That's the only way it happens. I'm the only one that's absolutely saying that now. But you've heard more from Ron Johnson on the spending, that spending needs to go back to pre-pandemic levels. I completely agree. We should, not be spending at this alarming elevated rate that we've been doing ever since the pandemic came.
What exactly is the debt limit then? Okay, say in a magical, fantastical world, the government has zero debt. No debt at all, and no deficit. You're perfectly even in the amount you tax and the amount you spend, okay? The budget for next year, for the following governmental year is approved, and that budget, it shows you how much you've got, how much you're going to spend, how much you're going to borrow, whatever, okay? And you are going to go 1 billion into deficit spending. You will accrue 1 billion of deficit spending, 1 billion in debt from zero, right? But for some arbitrary reason, you have a debt limit of 100 million. So even though you pass that bill, that budget bill, you then are legally mandated to continue to spend and borrow and so on in accordance with that bill as laid out by that bill. And then once you hit that 100 million cap, alarm bells, shutting the federal government down. And then everything goes to shit. For some reason, even though you already wrote the budget that said you would go over that limit, the limit is like this separate arbitrary thing that you have to overcome. It's a way of forcing, it's a way for Republicans to grandstand about excessive spending every so-and-so months. It doesn't serve any political purpose beyond that.
And so there are the two sort of wants and asks that we have. We want lower spending levels, and we'd like to get rid of the debt ceiling. If 4 of us would say so, we'd get it. The question is whether or not there are 4 people with resolve that would stand up and demand it, because then that's the only way they get the bill passed. And yes, I'll vote for it. I'll vote to make the tax cuts permanent. I was for them before. I'm still for them. I will vote for spending cuts. Do they have to be perfect? Do they have to be every...
Didn't we want Dems to shut down the government a few months ago? Yes. And I really wish they had. F you, Schumer. Is his argument to remove the debt ceiling because it doesn't matter? No, his argument is that we should keep fighting over the debt ceiling all the time forever. Like, he's essentially saying, no, pass the bill, but detach the debt ceiling raise so that we can argue over that over and over and over again forever, even though the amount that we're going to spend is already, like, coded into law.
Spending cut I want? No. I'm willing to tolerate whatever the majority can get to, or whatever every Republican can get to. But I'm just not voting to raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion, because at that point, Republicans own the debt. You know, we've always historically blamed the Democrats for big spending and deficit spending, and it was true. It was a Democrat problem.
It's not true. You can look at Reagan, Bush Sr., then Bush Jr., then Trump. It's objectively the case that Republicans' deficit spend way the more.
But once Republicans vote for this, realize the deficit this year is going to be over $2 trillion. And if you raise the debt ceiling $5 trillion, it means you're going to be well over $2 trillion next year, too. That isn't conservative. Yeah. But then who's left? If I were to vote for this, who is left on any high moral ground to call out the deficit spenders and the big spenders?
Are you suspicious at all of Lindsey Graham going over to Ukraine, I think just before the drone attack, which officially we did not know about, was in the works? I'm hearing the intelligence community did know about it, but maybe they didn't tell the executive branch, the president for whom they worked, or though that could be. What are your thoughts on Graham, that visit, and how this impacts the bill?
There's a lot going on that's making peace more difficult to get to. I am sympathetic to President Trump and also very supportive of his foreign policy. He's talked about trying to end the war, but escalating the war doesn't bring us any closer. Lindsey Graham is also offering a new sanctions bill that has worldwide sanctions. So what Lindsey Graham is offering is if you buy oil or gas from Russia, you'll get a 500% tariff that can be doubled in 90 days. A 500% tariff becomes an embargo. So, you know, President Trump originally had a 140% tariff on China.
What the fuck are we on now?
And it's a world. Thank God they finally allowed the counter snipers to be in Butler. That was the first time they allowed President Trump to have.
Okay, you've had your fun. Elon Musk retweeted this. That's why we were looking at it to begin with. More of this guy.
The bromance is over.
Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we're well any of them. They wake up hostile.
Bill, last week, Elon said it can't be big and beautiful. And yesterday, he called it a disgusting abomination and wants Republicans to kill the bill. Trump says Elon should have said something early.
The more your segment is filled with clips and highlights and collections of all the exchanges that have taken place thus far, the less you have to risk sharing your actual opinion. Dude, look at how many cuts they have with Trump here at the beginning.
Poor guy, feels sorry for him. But
the swing states, he never trailed. Obviously, Elon's money made a big impact. But if money won elections, then Kamala would be commander-in-chief because she spent twice as much. You can't buy an election. If you could, Musk could have won that Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin.
You said that verbatim. Don't recycle. Recycling bits.
But Musk says Trump's just not the same guy. He's asking, was he replaced by a body double? Musk also says, oh, and some food for thought as they ponder this question. Trump has 3.5 years left as president, but I'll be around for 40 plus years. Elon's basically threatening the primary Republicans who vote for this big, beautiful bill and insinuates he'll be around for decades playing kingmaker. But Trump says he's the president, and Elon overstayed his welcome. Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric.
Likes this place.
Then there was this. At 3 o'clock this afternoon,
it's
Elon
all just
says,
recollections.
Save money in our budget. The EV's tanking because of this feud. Elon responded immediately saying, in light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contracts, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. Elon's taking his rockets and he's going home. Remember the hot red Tesla Musk gave Trump? Miller might torch it. Margot's going to have to Uber. And all those Republicans who bought Teslas to support Elon, do they key their own cars now? This is getting messy. But don't worry, Trump got big balls in the divorce. The 21.
My brain would rot too if I watched this every night. Yeah, me, like, if you ever need a real affirmation of the importance of declaring jihad on the ruralites, the ruraloids, as they're known, like, you gotta know, the people who are watching Fox News day in, day out, it genuinely, like, it ruins you. I've gotten so many emails from people being like, my grandparents literally chose Fox News over their own families. Like, it's so bad for your brain. They just need to ban it, man. That's just flat out. Like any real democratic mandate, when the AOC Mamdani ticket takes charge, they just need to say, well, no, you actually can't have this anymore.
1-year-old Dozier is staying on. And now Elon thinks Trump should be impeached. He wants to Doge Trump. And he says the Trump tariffs will cause a recession. This is not how I thought today would go. None of this is about Elon, Trump says. Quote, I don't mind Elon turning against me.
Oh my God.
Piece of the Trump agenda. Tax relief, no tax on tips. Pay raises for soldiers and military spending on ships and jets. Border. Hopefully the Senate strips it out and the House can do its duty and spend less and lock in the Doge cuts.
He actually does refrain from making any meaningful statements in the entire segment. That is insane. It's just, here's a screenshot, here's a bit delivery, here's like an insincere joke, screenshot, video clip. Oh my God, that's what they pay him for? Everyone's on a goddamn holding pattern.
And as for the president, he should simply disengage. Musk is his own person. The government contracts that he has stand on their own merit. They shouldn't be called into question. Threatening to pull them, that's not wise. When 5 minutes ago you were, of course, hailing Musk's work and helping rescue the stranded Americans in space. Elon Musk is like the Thomas Edison of our time.
Oh my God.
He sacrificed for America personally and professionally. And he wanted to make the Trump presidency happen, and it did. And I'm
surprised. I would not have expected Laura to go with Elon in the divorce. That's crazy. I would not have guessed that. I hate this cunt so much, almost worse than Ann Coulter. I can see that. Ann Coulter is definitely more evil, but she loops around so far into being evil that it almost becomes funny. And I feel like Ingraham kind of like straddles the line a little bit. You know what I mean? I feel Coulter would be fun to drink with. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that for sure. They're using Fox News to talk to Trump. I wonder how this is going to pan out. JD Vance apparently is going on Theo Von today. So presumably this is going to come up. I expect JD Vance to take as neutral of a position as possible. Like, he'll defend Trump, but he's also not going to attack Elon at all. That would be my guess. Who is this guy? Theo Von? You're not seeing anything? I don't know. JD Vance very backed by the techno-oligarch side. Yeah, but he's the vice president. Shapiro's reaction.
The so-called big, beautiful bill. Why? Well, because he had spent a beautiful bill. Because that's the political side. And as I've said before, I have sympathies on both sides. I am a long-time cutter. I'm somebody who has openly said we ought to restructure Social Security and restructure Medicare and restructure Medicaid. I've said all of those things, but I also understand the American public does not agree with me on a lot of those.
Way more interest in the comment section for this one. This should be handled behind closed doors. They're grown men arguing like children at a playground. Dude, they have both acted exactly like this the whole time they've been public figures. Elon was calling like hero divers in Thailand pedophiles because they wouldn't let him bring a stupid submarine into a cave system. Trump is famous for being vindictive against people. Nothing here is new. You're only noticing it because it's against each other. This feud is disappointing and embarrassing. I'm so damn tired of politics in this country being like reality TV. Votes for the host of a reality TV show for 3 elections in a row. Good example of why the Bible says pride is the greatest sin. Yeah. If he knew that Trump was compromised in terms of child abuse, then why did he leave his son alone with him? Elon is being extremely petty, and I'm actually kind of glad that Donald Trump stood his ground as our duly elected president of the United States and did not allow Elon to run the office like the left said he would. Aren't Musk and Peter Thiel enemies? It's complicated. I think like the primary dynamic here is just that Elon is probably super duper unlikable, you know? Like that matters a lot when it comes to these interpersonal engagements, you know? I think we're just used to people gritting their teeth and behaving normally around each other because we're used to seeing Democrats do it. In reality, these alliances are usually a lot more fragile than that, you know? Being terminally high does make you kind of unlikable. You can't tell chat that. You can't tell chat that. What was that one tweet? Don't worry, habitual weed smokers. All your friends really like the fact that when you stay up late talking about stuff, you never remember what they said the morning after, you know? All your friends love the fact that whenever they talk with you later, you have no recollection of the conversation. They love that shit about you.
If the country goes insolvent, if all the
I never
money
actually
is
saw
spent
this
on
press
paying
conference,
interest on
or
debt,
not press conference.
there's no money
I
left
guess.
for anything.
Stupid convention.
So that's the reason I'm doing this, is because I was looking at the big picture here, and it's like, man, our debt's getting out of control. The interest payments, the interest on the national debt now exceeds the entire Defense Department budget.
It's $1 trillion a year in
Yes.
interest just to carry the money that we owe is $1 trillion a year.
Yes.
That is unbelievable.
And rising rapidly. So like, I mean, a country's no different from a person. The country overspends.
Can't believe it, man. This entire time, I assumed that he was at least, like, intelligent enough to understand that this was all a Trojan horse, but I guess not.
Country goes bankrupt. Same as a person who overspends goes bankrupt. So it's not like optional to solve these things. It's essential. So
we're going to go bankrupt.
Yes,
we are.
Do you think man babies and public whining's always been the norm for leaders historically? Like, do you think this is what feudal barons acted like? Probably. This is probably a little bit like what the Holy Roman Empire was like. Yeah, we are returning with a V. I mean, I'm sure that it's not usually this stupid, but yeah, probably, like, to an extent. I feel like the global rise of liberalism has led to a lot of, what would you call it? Like bloodlessness in how we conduct politics, right? Like, I feel like all around the world, people tend to be a lot more engaged with their local political process than we are in America, at least historically than we have been in America. Maybe because over here, our leaders feel more like rote bureaucrats, at least prior to Trump. And in, I don't know, like if you look at like Latin America and like the 80s, I speaking so generally there, I feel like there is a personal element to this engagement that people have just kind of let die on the roadside. And the fact that, like, it's one of the reasons Democrats have done so poorly, they can't embrace that celebrity element of it. But that's the difference, right? AOC, Zohran Mamdani, you know, they understand it's not just about having the right policies. It's about being this overwhelming cultural force. It seems other people are more involved locally, but less nationally. Yeah, I'm operating this, for me, 100% speculation. But my guess would be that in a lot of developing countries, people are a bit more aware of what's going on locally, and the national elections feel like this far away thing. Whereas in America, everyone's always freaking out about the national news, but like 10% of people engage with local politics, if even, maybe not 10%, like maybe less than that, you know? That would be my guess. And then that probably depersonalizes the whole process. And that includes me, by the way. In large part as a consequence of my job, right? I engage with national politics a lot, far more than I do anything local in Seattle. But it's a good practice. You know, it's important. It's very important. You can get a lot done at a local level.
Progressive Victory has officially endorsed Mamdani for New York City mayor. With the race so close, a single phone call really means life or death here. Progressive Victory is officially endorsing Ras Baraka for governor. He's the mayor from Newark who was arrested by ICE about 3 or 4-ish weeks ago. If there was ever a governor who was really going to stand up to the Trump administration, it's going to be Baraka.
We are in a bit of a down spot right now, but this is the planted seed of potentially a new movement. The Democratic Party is useless. You want these new people, these non-DNC insiders, to work together, because this is the spark that can be cultivated into meaningful opposition.
We are doing phone banks every single day, and we're also going to be canvassing this upcoming Sunday in New Jersey for Baraka. I want to see you joining this PV Discord server, or else, again, you're gonna go to hell. We are creating membership cards for all of our dues-paying members. Get that Progressive Victory membership cards. They look awesome. I've seen the prototypes. I'm hoping to see a lot of you in the Discord server.
The opportunity is right here in front of you, okay? I don't want to hear any whining. You can make a difference. I mean that sincerely.